Good morning, children. In the last class, we learned about what is called as motion. Okay? Motion, if there is a change in the position of an object with respect to the surroundings, then we say it is called as the motion. And in the same way, we learned about today we will be learning about the term called as rest. Okay? Rest. When we learn about the motion, we should learn about the rest. Therefore, what is rest? Normally, if there is no change in the position of the object with respect to the surroundings, then we say it is called as the rest. If a body doesn't change its position with respect to the surroundings, then it is called as rest. And in the previous class we learned about a body. Okay, here body, anything which we see, feel and touch is called a body. Anything which we see, feel and touch is called as a body. Next, the important thing what we should learn about, we come across about the word called as physical quantity. Physical quantity. Physical quantity. What do you mean by the physical quantity? Physical quantity means anything which can be measured is called as a physical quantity. Anything which can be measured. Anything which can be measured is called a physical quantity. Anything which can be measured is called as a physical quantity. Then, example of this physical quantity, can we measure the length of a person? That means height of a person, or the fatness of a person, the height of the building, okay, the length of the building, all that we can measure. Therefore, length we can measure, breadth we can measure. Breadth is nothing but it is also a length. Area we can measure, volume we can measure, distance we can measure, speed we can measure, okay, speed we can measure, displacement we can measure, okay. All these there are so many physical quantities. All the quantities we come across in our daily life, in our subject, those are the physical quantities. Therefore, anything which can be measured, it is called as a physical quantity. Okay? Anything which can be measured is called as a physical quantity. These are the examples of the physical quantity. And next, we should learn some of the basics of the physical quantities, of some of the terms. Okay, those are normally the physical quantities are divided into two types. Physical quantities, these are divided into two types. Mainly those are fundamental quantities and derived quantities. Derived quantities. Fundamental quantities and derived quantities. Okay. Then what do you mean by this fundamental quantities? Okay. Fundamental means basics. Normally, foundation, fundamentals are very, very essential for a building or for a person, for anything. Okay. What do you mean? This is about the fundamental. We are learning about the quantities. Therefore, the fundamentals of the quantities are called as the fundamental quantities. Okay. Then what are these fundamental quantities? Fundamental means basic. Okay. What part are the fundamental quantities? In these fundamental quantities. Okay. I am writing about fundamental quantities. All the physical quantities means physical quantities, already we learned about physical quantity. Physical quantity means which can be measured. All the measured quantities which are independent of them. Independent means which are not dependent on any other quantities. Those are called as the fundamental quantities. Okay? Those are called as the fundamental quantities. The physical quantities. The physical quantities which are independent of the other quantities. Other quantities are called fundamental quantities. Are called fundamental quantities. Then how many fundamental quantities are there? There are 7 fundamental quantities. There are 7 fundamental quantities. Fundamental quantities. What are these 7 fundamental quantities? Normally, in order to remember them, I have given one code. What is that code? Easily remembrance. To remember easily, I have given one code. That is LETTMLA. 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 Let MLA. What do you mean by this let MLA? If MLA is coming to our village, okay, if MLA is coming to our house, what we will be doing? We will, okay, ask him to come to our house. Okay, we invite him to our house. Okay, that is called as let MLA to come inside. Let MLA. Like that we can remember. Then what do you mean by this let MLA? Just you see here. First L. L means length. Length. E. Electric current. Time. Another T. Temperature. M. Mass. L. Luminous intensity. Luminous intensity. A. Amount of substance. Normally, we indicate them by using of some symbols. Length L. The units of the length meter. Therefore, this is units denoted by quantity letter. Like that we can remember. electric current, ampere, A denoted by the letter A, small m, meter, time, second, time, okay, denoted by the letter S, here also denoted by the letter A, time, second, units, temperature, K, Kelvin, mass, kg, kilogram, luminous intensity denoted by the letter C, capital C, small d, candela, and here amount of substance, MOL denoted by, that is mole, mole. These are the physical quantities. Sorry, these are the fundamental quantities. Okay, there are 7 fundamental quantities, that is length, electric current, time, temperature, mass, luminous intensity, and amount of substance. Okay, these are the 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. How many are there? 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. These 7 physical quantities, they are independent. They are not dependent on any other quantities. They are self-dependent, self-independent, means they are not dependent on any other quantities. Those are called as the, okay, what? Fundamental quantities. Next, what we are having, other one, second one, derived quantities. That means they are derived from these fundamentals. Okay, they are dependent on the fundamental quantities. They are dependent on the other quantities. Those are called as the derived quantities. Okay, listen. Derived quantities. Derived quantities. Okay, the physical quantities which are dependent on the fundamental quantities. Which are dependent on the fundamental quantities are called derived quantities. Are called as derived quantities. The physical quantities which are dependent on the fundamental quantities are called as the derived quantities. Example: area, distance, area, volume, speed, okay, velocity, displacement, acceleration, etc. Okay, these are the what? Derived quantities. Okay, today what we learn? We learn about what is rest. We learn about what is rest. Okay, next what is a body. We learn about the physical quantity. What is the fundamental quantity? fundamental quantity and the derived quantities. Okay. Derived quantities. Okay, now we learn about the physical quantities. Apart from the deriving of these physical quantities into fundamental and derived, they are also divided in another way. Those are the scalar quantities and vector quantities. Scalar quantities and the vector quantities. Scalar quantities. And the vector quantities. Scalar quantities and the vector quantities. Then what do you mean by these scalar quantities? What do you mean by these scalar quantities? The physical quantities which have only magnitude. The physical quantities which have only magnitude are called scalar quantities. The physical quantities which have only magnitude are called as the scalar quantities. Then what do you mean by this magnitude? Magnitude means size. Magnitude means size. Okay. Next we'll be learning about the vector quantities. The physical quantities which have both magnitude and direction are called vector quantities. The physical quantities which have both magnitude and direction are called as the vector quantities. Okay? Yes. This is about the scalars and the vectors. And the remaining we'll be learning tomorrow in the next class. Thank you.